Hello, my name is Dr. Karen Kossie-Chernyshev, and I'm going to talk to you today about quick tool number 4 for going digital on Blackboard, the discussion board. In previous videos, we've talked about Blackboard email, Blackboard announcements, course messages. Well, in this one, we're going to focus on the discussion board. The discussion board is a really great tool. We want to think about how we can best use it in the online environment. Blackboard allows the students and the professor to be engaged in discussion-based learning. Now, most of us are familiar with traditional discussion, right? It's face-to-face, real-time, synchronous. Everyone is in the same place. They can look at each other in the face. They can see the hands being raised. They can see expressions on people's faces, so on. So this is what we're used to in traditional discussion settings. Online, we can also discuss asynchronously, that is, not necessarily at the same time. Everyone can comment on a particular idea or respond to a different question, but not necessarily at the same time. Or synchronously, where the professor and the students are meeting in a real-time virtual environment and they are discussing in real time, network to network, person to person, a particular idea. The discussion board is an asynchronous learning tool. There's no way you can make it synchronous. You post the questions for the students, they will go in and respond, and you will be able to see who has responded, how many students have responded to a particular exercise. You will also be able to see how many you've graded. So it's a great tool for keeping you on track and the students on track. But again, it's all happening in an asynchronous environment. Synchronicity is not possible. It may happen, but you won't know necessarily that your classmate, the student will not know that his or her classmate is answering a question at the same time. It's not. Now, they can go in after they see the question, the answer, and they can comment on it, and I can do the same thing as a professor, but it is not a synchronous learning experience. It is asynchronous. So the discussion board is a tool that you can add in the same way we added course messages, but you will not have to do so because it's already preloaded on your Blackboard course. You do not have to add it as a tool. If you wanted to add a second discussion board for some reason, you would again go to the same place that we went for course messages, selected, and added. Okay, so, but it's already here. So all you need to do is click on discussion board, and this is what you will see. So this is what you're going to see when you click on discussion board, a blank screen waiting for you to post these wonderfully dynamic questions for your students to answer so that their classmates can then also comment and you can comment, and you'll have this vibrant intellectual exchange happening in an asynchronous world. Now, before you post questions, I think it's important to think about what kinds of questions you should be posting, right? Using the Socratic approach is really going to be helpful. See yourself as the teacher, kind of like the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes, directing what's going on, leading them to this font of knowledge, right? So you can have them, I know in my class I have them take virtual trips to different places. I keep them seeking, finding, and sharing information, comparing and contrasting, analyzing and evaluating all of those things. I also do it within a particular framework. I have them write entries of 100 to 200 words, and I ask them to include the word count. One of the reasons that I do that is because in our profession as historians, we sometimes have to write an abstract, right? And when we write that abstract, there's a certain number of words that we're supposed to use, 150. So I use that to try to to help them understand the importance of disciplining themselves to respond in accord to whatever the rules of engagement are for a particular exercise. So they will write their responses. They will also include the word count, and then it also helps them to understand the grade that they get. So if I've asked for 100 words and I get, 35, they understand why they've gotten a particular grade. And in all cases, especially for the first assignment, I give them the opportunity to succeed in that particular exercise. Some of you, I'm sure all of you really are familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. So before, again, you start posting questions, you want to think about the level of thinking you're trying to engage. Those of us who are teaching introductory courses, we're probably going to be in these first three categories. For the most part, the students are going to be challenged to remember information, right? We want to make sure they understand certain things. We also may have them applying. Really, we may go through all of these areas, but in our upper division courses, we're definitely having them doing more analyzing, evaluating, and creating. It's just something to keep in mind as you're formulating questions for the discussion board. You may also want to keep in mind the importance of using a sensorial approach. We have 5 senses for sure. Some say 6, but we'll talk about the 5 that we know about. The sense of sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell. All of these, you can find ways to include them in your discussion board, because the students, this is a sterile kind of environment when they come here, but when they leave the Blackboard shell to do an assignment for you, it can still be something that they really enjoy. So you can have them, as I've done when we're discussing the Columbian Exchange, for example, I may have them go to a variety of restaurants and see how bread is being transformed from one culture to the next, or to see how chicken is being prepared and seasoned from one culture to the next. It's a way to have them thinking about cultures beyond what I am doing in the classroom. You can very easily liven up a historical discussion of the civil rights movement by having them listen to James Brown, for example, and comment on the historical significance of his famous song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Or you might also have them listen to speeches by Dr. Martin Luther King or President Obama. Both of them received the Nobel Peace Prize. Listen to the content of the speeches, see what was historically significant in those moments in which they spoke, and compare and contrast those ideas. Seeing, you can use photographs. We know that protest movements have been frequent in American history, and so we can have the students, you could actually do a collage, as I've done here, of protest movements or people in protest, and have the students write a creative or expository essay about that allows them to link all of those different protest signs together in a meaningful way. So again, this just gives you an idea. So you have an asynchronous learning tool that you're using, and the students are discussing, they're responding to a question, they're looking at material, they are discussing with each other, and the professor can also participate in the discussion as well. So all of this is happening in a virtual environment. It is not happening synchronously, it is happening asynchronously. Okay, so how do we get these fabulous questions on the discussion board? Let's find out. You're going to first click on Create Forum. So once you've created the forum, you will then name the forum. Again, you have a lot of options in terms of what you include in the description. You can include images, YouTube videos, you name it. And then the third thing you'll need to do is determine the forum's availability. You can have it where the forum will pop up at a date that you want it to and disappear at a time that you want it to. So you have those choices. Once you've created the forum, you will determine the settings for the forum, and then you'll submit. So you will think about the view. You will also think about whether or not you're going to grade the forum. I would suggest grading it, of course. You will determine whether or not people can subscribe to the forum. There are just a lot of decisions to be made, but just read through them and think about what you want to accomplish with the assignment, and then you click the submit button. So congratulations, you have just posted your first discussion question. So now that you've created the question, you could probably be thinking, well, how many questions should I post? What percentage of the semester grade should it count for? Both of those numbers will vary according to professor. I would suggest at least once per week, one question per week, or frequently enough for students to get in the habit of using the discussion board. You may consider posting 15 questions, but requiring that they answer a total of 10 for the semester. If the class is large, you can allow the students to evaluate each other's posts, and you can provide them with netiquette rules and a rubric for doing so. The grade that they receive will be based on some measurable criteria that you establish as the professor of record. Finally, the percentage of the semester grade should really be one that will ensure that they take the exercise seriously. If you post 15 questions and you say it's worth 5% of your grade, a whole lot of people are probably not going to do it. So if it's at least 15%, I think you will get some traction there and the students will take that portion of the course seriously. Well, I really hope this helped. This is Karen Kossie-Chernyshev, Professor of History, Texas Southern University. If you have any additional questions, please send me an email or give me a call. Happy discussions.